All right, we've touched on a little bit of the land contract and the difference between, transferring title and not transferring title, which is the purchase money mortgage and the land contract. But don't forget there's other types of financing you guys are going to hopefully get into that can include anything in the commercial world. Eventually, you guys might want to venture or dabble or dip your toe into the water of some of the at least small commercial. So you may start ending up in a whole completely different type of financing, and where it's more dependent on the property and less dependent upon the person. I always have that running joke that I've told people, seems to me it's easier to borrow $50 million than it is to borrow $5. Because at $50 million property like the Greenwood Mall, they're going to start looking at the property rather than the person as the one making the payments. So it's really easy to go, yeah, well, I've got Macy's as a tenant and Sears as a tenant and Hot Topic as a tenant, as opposed to I've got Joe's my tenant. Well, so now on a rental property, they're going to be looking at me more as the person to solve the monthly payment, whereas in commercial, it's completely different. Some of the other financing, anybody got into anything weird yet? Like blanket financing, multiple properties? Dave, weren't you dealing with an investor that was going to buy 3 or 4 different properties? Oh, they're all cash? Well, my heart bleeds for you guys that are doing all these cash deals. That's not fair. It's robbing you of these valuable experiences that you could be having.
Well, but you guys stop and think about it, where the market is right now in the stock market, and the price of oil, and what interest in the bank, it makes more sense for these people to put the money back in.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not earning, there's really no saving power right now in the market, or CDs or the banks, or like you said, playing the market, so you might as well take the cash because your opportunity cost right now is probably the lowest it's been in a number of years. It's not like you can, like you were saying, go put it in a savings account and earn 3 or 4 or 5 or 6%. You can only earn 1%, and you can probably do better than that by buying the rental market with cash. So that's a good point. But I guess one of the other common investors is the one that we talked about before, is blanket. And if you ever work with a developer, they use these kind of deals where they might, get 100 acres and they divide it off and they put one loan to buy it. It looks like a blanket because what they end up doing is then selling one of the houses, or one of the acres, they'll build a house on it, and they have partial release so they can sell that house. So a blanket loan is a pretty common investor or developer type of loan. The big thing about those is you have to remember what they call the partial release. Now, the good thing is most of those people that ask that or talk about it are going to know to tell you, hey, we got to talk about the partial release. It's not like you're going to have to remember it. All right? But a partial release, remember, is where you pay a percentage of the sales price against the principal, like a one-time pay down of the principal, so that they will release that house and clear the lien and can be sold, or that piece of land, or whatever you're putting the blanket on. So that's a common financing technique. One of the other big financing techniques that they're going to be dealing with is the, I just lost my mind. Okay. Now I guess I'm going to have to go to the book. The package loan. If you ever get into the commercial world, package loans deals with using personal property as collateral. All right? I mean, if you're buying a house now and we say, leave the washer and dryer, theoretically that value of that washer and dryer contributes to the overall purchase of that deal. But in the residential world, it's so small or such a low percentage, nobody really says anything. All right? But now think about going into the commercial world where you're buying multifamily property and each one of the apartments come with a washer and dryer or a refrigerator or something to that effect, where now that personal property leaves a large package. And one of the things that's common is, like, Oh, we're buying it for 1.2 million, and the lender says, okay, I'll give you 80%. So 80% of that's what, 960,000, right? So you bring the other 20%. Now here's the problem. Your lender goes, well, wait a minute. That 1.2 million is actually $1 million in real estate and 200,000 in personal property. So literally, we can only give you a loan on 80% of the value of the real estate. So look what happens all of a sudden. They only give you $800,000. So you've got to come up with the 20% of that million and all of the 200,000 because it's personal property. So in this particular deal, you're bringing $400,000 to the table. So instead, you would say, you know what? I want to package these together and go get a package loan. And there are special loans that will allow you to include the personal property into that real property and use a mortgage to transfer personal property. You guys, have you heard of the UCC filings or UCC1, where you actually collateralize personal property? Nobody's done anything like that with a small business. Common in the pizza place. You know, you get a big, let's say, a Pizza Hut style pizza place, and your pizza oven may be $20,000 or $30,000. You can actually put a mortgage on that through a UCC filing, and you have to fill out this, what they call a UCC1, to check your credit. And what you're doing, instead of buying it with a bill of sale, which is how you transfer most personal property, you actually put a mortgage on personal property. All right? So
if you were buying a bar, you know, all the contents, would you have, is this what you would use?
yeah, this would, if they're going to do it that way. Now, you can structure a deal, and this is where we're going to talk about this in negotiation. Maybe you structure the deal that all the personal stuff is outside of that sale, and you transfer it through a bill of sale. But if you're going to say, hey, it's 1.2 million for everything, your lender could potentially say, no, 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 that 1.2 million is actually $1 million in bar and 200,000 in glassware and plates, so I can't do this deal, or I got to go get you a package loan.
So you could sell the stuff basically for $1 pending the sale going through, and then you could finance everything through the one charge that he was going to charge for everything.
Yeah, that's how I bought a bar. I bought a bar like that. He sold me everything in the bar. He took all the stuff. You guys remember that constructive annexation when it went from the tenant's personal property, the pool tables, the bar, the liquor. When I moved in there, or when I took over, there was still trash in the trash can. It looked like the guy locked the door and said, screw it, I ain't never coming back. So the guy said, I will sell you everything in here for $1 if you sign a 10-year lease with me. So that's how we did it. So I bought everything for $1. Did it exactly that way. But the 10-year lease had a value of about $600,000 in it. $5,000 a month for a year, and had to sign a 10-year lease. So it was a $600,000 deal. And he, 203K, the rehab loan.
Yeah, so most of my people are cash buyers, but a lot of the houses that I sell have that option. I don't know.
203K loan is an FHA loan designed to give you the money to rehab the house. So because they're selling a house that's probably got a lot wrong with it. One of the things that's wrong, minimum of like 5K. So you got to have enough work for it to actually count. Not hard to get $5,000 in rehab anymore. It takes a special appraiser, and what they do is this: they'll go in and they do this thing called an ARV. Anybody guess? After repaired value. So what they're going to do is they're going to loan a percentage of the after repaired value. So if the house is for sale, say like 50,000 grand worth of work based on your estimate or his estimate is 70, but after you get it fixed, it's got comps that show 90. You get an you'd get the 203K loan, and they'll give you 80% of the after repair value. So what you end up getting is the purchase price plus the rehab. And then when you're done, you're in the loan at 80% of the value, and theoretically you sell it or keep it.
So when you go to the closing, you get a check for the overage of
Exactly not.
well, what is you have to have a contract or
You use what they call the draw system,
like a construction loan.
like a construction loan. Because if they give you a check for 20 grand, it's funny, I would go on vacation to the island, she's go shopping. You need have you seen that pink Smith & Wesson?
So is it like a home equity or a line of credit?
No, it is giving you the value of the home as if it was fixed and repaired.
Right.
So it's it's allowing you to buy the acquisition and the rehab in a loan up front. Instead of doing one for acquisition, then you go and spend the rehab, refinance it, and pull the money out. They're doing it all in one thing. It's a 203K loan. It's a FHA refinance loan. Yeah. Now the repairs, and it takes a special appraiser, and he has to do what they call an ARV, because he wants to prove that if I give you 20 grand and you fix the property, is it really going to be worth 20 grand more after the repair value? And that's what he does. He might say, you know what, you put 20 in, but the comps still only say this is a $50,000 house. You probably are not going to get that 203K. Because is it 203B? That's the normal FHA loan.
How do you get comps if you've got a house that's a bank-owned house and everything's sold in the last 180 days and then half mile that house were all bank-owned houses?
Yeah. Remember, you're not. Well, we can argue what the word normal means, or yeah, because it's supposed to be disclosed as bank owned.
It will tell you when you're sold to 180 days within a half mile.
Well, there are disclosures in our MLS that will say, what's the disclosure? Bank owned home. Okay? And you can sort by that disclosure too. But remember, market value is defined as most probable price at an arm's length transaction under normal market conditions. Normal market is not foreclosure, short sale, or bank owned. All right, by definition. But now here's the problem that I have as a mathematician. I have a problem with what the word normal is. If everybody's right-handed and you say, well, the left-handed person's not normal, okay, well, then you get a group of left-handed people together and there's one right-handed guy. Now normal is left-handed. All right? So if you've got all bank-owned homes in the area, wouldn't that by definition be the word normal?
Well, and that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
I mean, all of them are being rehabbed, none of them are sold yet.
The other problem I have is when banks do that all the time. They will call me and say, we want to list the house. What are the houses in the market, but don't use any REO homes? And my thought in the back of my head is, well, yeah, but when you sell it, it's going to be an REO home. Wouldn't you want to compare to the other REO homes? Because out of the gate, a bank-owned home should never compare to a regular home. Simply because of the deed they're getting. You know, general warranty deed versus special warranty deed. So why would the bank want to try and go up against that? You know, I don't know. That's a good point. I would go back to them and say, hey, this is an REO-driven market. This is what you're competing against. So this is what I'm going to have to use as comps. Because that is now become the norm. Heartland Crossing for a long, long time there in 2009 and 2010 and 11, the only thing for sale in there were foreclosed HUD homes. You know? Yeah. 5 years later, it's still pretty much the same thing. So those are maybe some of the other loans that you might run into. Those are the two biggest ones, the blanket loan, the package loan. we talked about construction loan, or you guys understand a construction loan, how it works. Similar way. The big deal is it's a draw concept. You know, the money gets, the problem, well, actually, David, you know, it's a good thing. This is a real good analogy, because on a construction loan, they're going to appraise the house on what they call on plans, which is the after repair value. All right, so a 203K loan, to some extent, like you said, Gwen, is a construction loan on a house that's already standing. Think of it that way. You're getting the acquisition and the rehab all in one shot. The rehab money is held in account and used in the draw method, just like the construction loan is, where they draw it out and pay the vendors off. The other thing with the 203K, you can't use, like, you can't use it and you be the contractor. You actually have to have someone of standards. I hate saying using a licensed contractor, because Marion County doesn't have licensed contractors. They have what's called a number. They have a filing number, but it's not a license. Hamilton County has a license, but Marion County doesn't. But they can't be, and they'll usually ask who the contractor is and make them submit all their stuff to show that they're bonded and insured, and they may actually have to submit previous work. You can't do that. All right?